Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. Apparently it was a heart attack. He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing.
Many names come to mind when rock and roll is in review, but none stands out like Elvis Presley, an enigmatic figure and king of rock and roll. Death robbed us of this great icon at the vibrant age of 42, but his tunes remain a mainstay in the hallowed halls of rock and roll. Fans and media have speculated the reason behind his untimely death, spinning the ever-turning rumor mill, yielding lies and half-truths. Elvis reveals a secret about him in his last days, churning out a side of him that fans never knew existed. How well did we know the king of rock and roll? What secrets did he reveal in his last words? Stay tuned as we explore Elvis Presley finally confirms what we thought all along. Who is Elvis Presley? Before diving into the vast ocean of his personality, music, and presence in the world of rock and roll, let's take a quick peek into his humble beginnings. Elvis Presley, the iconic king of rock and roll, wasn't born with the laurels of royalty. It was a far cry from it. On January 8, 1935, a king was born in the slums of Tupelo, Mississippi, to the lowly family of Vernon and Gladys Love Presley. Elvis had a twin brother who was born 35 minutes after him, but he died later down the years. How did this propel Elvis in his strive for success? Elvis's father, Vernon, worked odd jobs to fend for his family, moving from one to the next, and his family relied heavily on neighbors and government food assistance to survive. It seems like the king wasn't always a king. In 1938, tragedy struck. Eager to ease the effects of poverty on his family, Vernon rose to the occasion, but not in the best way. He was caught altering a $4 check, which diverted his course to an 8-month jail term. While Vernon served his sentence, his family was forced to reside with extended relatives in Tupelo. The rock and roll icon suffered greatly from watching his father's incarceration, as revealed by one of his cousins. At 6 years old, Presley entered the first grade at East Tupelo Consolidated, where he was rated average by his teachers. On October 3, 1945, Elvis, at 10 years old, had his first public performance in a singing contest at the Mississippi-Alabama Fair and Dairy Show. He sang Old Sheep, and he came 5th. A few months after his loss at the contest, he was surprised with a guitar, his first ever. Elvis recalled getting this guitar for his birthday. He was taught by a pastor at his parents' church and by 2 uncles. It does take a village to raise a child. Having learned to play the guitar, he found a great love for the instrument. However, Elvis Presley was a shy kid. Once he recalled, "I took the guitar, and I watched people, and I learned to play a little bit. But I would never sing in public. I was very shy about it." In September of 1946, Presley started attending Milam School for 6th grade. By the following year, he had begun showcasing his singing and guitar skills at school, despite being ridiculed as a trashy kid playing hillbilly tunes. He was an avid listener of Mississippi Slim's radio show and even received guitar lessons from Slim himself. Overcoming stage fright, Presley performed on-air twice at the age of 12. In November 1948, the family relocated to Memphis, where Presley enrolled at L.C. Humes High School. In 8th grade, Presley's music teacher, Miss Marmon, was quick to write him off as she told him repeatedly to his face that he was not talented. However, some kings are not born, they are made. In Elvis's case, he was made by his determination to never go down, despite what everyone said about his talents. Despite receiving a mediocre grade in music, he proved his talent by performing "Keep Them Cold Icy Fingers Off Me" for his music teacher. Shyness often held him back from performing openly, and he faced occasional bullying for being perceived as a mama's boy. In 1950, Presley honed his guitar skills under the guidance of neighbor Lee Denson, forming a musical group with him and 3 other boys, including future rockabilly pioneers Dorsey and Johnny Burnett. One of Presley's biggest banes remains his liability to read music sheets and tell musical symbols, so he played the guitar by ear as most professional musicians did. He had a special place in his heart for Hank Snow, with all of his songs imprinted on Elvis's mind. He had other country artists who influenced his musical career and development growing up. On this list are country singers such as Roy Acuff, Ernest Tubb, Ted Daffan, Jimmy Rogers, Jimmy Davis, and Bob Wills. After graduation from high school, Elvis, like his father, worked odd jobs, including working as a truck driver. However, that was not going to be his career. It was a means to a greater end, as fate had too much in store for Elvis. Personal life: his toxic love with Priscilla. Elvis Presley was a bit of a heartthrob in his days, a handsome young man who had come from the slums of Mississippi and showcased his talent, which brought him to the pinnacle of rock and roll. What a story he had! He had ensnared everyone in his allure, men and women alike admiring his presence. Elvis met the love of his life when she was 14. The good old days when love was all that mattered and age was just a number. Her name was Priscilla. Having met her in his army base where he was stationed in Germany, she caught his eye, and he seized the opportunity to prepare for his forever. One would wonder why Elvis was super comfortable with a 14-year-old with hopes of marrying her. We will find out soon enough. Just before Christmas in 1966, Elvis proposed to Priscilla, prompted by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who reminded him of the morals clause in his RCA record contract. Priscilla mentioned in a 1973 interview with Ladies' Home Journal that she and Elvis were content living together, but societal norms at the time frowned upon such arrangements. The pair exchanged vows at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas on May 1, 1967. Parker planned the wedding to garner as much publicity as possible. Thus, it was attended by very few people and finished in 8 minutes. A short press conference took place after the wedding, and then there was an extravagant $10,000 brunch reception. For the first few years of their marriage, the pair seemed happy. But after his 1968 television special, Elvis's career took off, and he started doing tours and shows all over the world, including many adulterous affairs, while Priscilla stayed at home to take care of their daughter, Lisa Marie. Priscilla chose to learn karate as a means to pass the time after being inspired by Elvis's love of the sport. She started training under Mike Stone, a karate instructor she had met backstage at one of Elvis Presley's concerts in 1972 because of her husband's interests. After their business relationship quickly developed into a love affair, Priscilla realized her marriage was becoming increasingly unsatisfactory. Elvis's wish to meet Priscilla in his hotel suite was a turning point. She claims that Elvis made a strong start at intimacy there, telling her, "This is how a real man makes love to his woman." This interaction was a turning point in Priscilla's thinking on what to do with her life. All of this culminated in a divorce. Memphis House Recording Service, Elvis's first recording. With a mother's love thriving in his young heart, Elvis made a simple gesture to his mother, paying for studio time in Memphis Recording Service run by Sam Phillips, recording 2 songs, My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin, that celebrated her on a 2-sided acetate disc. Soon this gesture became more positive than he had thought, setting the groundwork for his rapid journey to stardom. When quizzed about these songs, he claimed that he intended to record them as a birthday gift to his mother, or that he was merely interested in what he sounded like. Peter Guralnick once argued that Elvis wanted to be discovered so badly, which is why he chose to use the Sun Studios. In January 1954, he cut a second acetate disc with another couple of songs recorded on it, I'll Never Stand in Your Way and It Wouldn't Be the Same Without You. He had such high hopes for this recordings to set him on his career path immediately. But again he was disappointed as nothing came of it. His sorrows compounded as he failed an audition for a local vocal quartet, the Songfellows, and another for the band of Eddie Bond. Sam Phillips had a strong interest in bringing someone who could embody to perfection the sound of black musicians on whom he focused his projects. A new sun was on the horizon, and it was set to shine on Elvis. In June, Presley came across a demo recording by Jimmy Sweeney of a ballad called Without You, which he felt might be suitable for him. However, when he attempted to sing it in the studio, he couldn't quite do it justice. Despite this setback, the studio owner Sam Phillips was intrigued by Presley's potential and invited him to try other songs. Phillips was impressed enough by Presley's performance to bring in local musicians, guitarist Winfield Scotty Moore and upright bass player Bill Black, to collaborate with him on a recording session. This session provided some bits of intrigue for Sam Phillips, but it wasn't there just yet. However, the sessions proved useful in launching Elvis right into the mind of Sam Phillips, a place where every aspiring star wanted to be. Another session was held on July 5th, which went on until late in the night. The session proved nearly entirely unfruitful. However, while they were planning to abort and go home, Presley launched into a 1946 blues number, That's All Right. And he started jumping around and acting a fool with the music going on. Then Bill picked up his bass and started doing the same, and in a short while everyone was invested again. Sam Phillips was impressed by what he saw and he recorded it. Eureka! This is the sound that he had been looking for. 3 days later, Dewey Phillips played Presley's That's All Right on his Red Hot and Blue show. This was the turning point in Elvis's career. The song was played repeatedly, owing to a wave of listeners' interest. Dewey introduced Presley to the world on air, interviewing him and clearing the air about his race because most callers assumed he was black. Soon after, the trio recorded a bluegrass song, Bill Monroe's Blue Moon of Kentucky, again in a distinctive style and employing a jury-rigged echo effect that Sam Phillips dubbed Slapback. A single was pressed with That's All Right on the A side and Blue Moon of Kentucky on the reverse. Elvis's career just took off. Louisiana Hayride radio commercial and TV performance, his meteoric rise to stardom. Presley performed in November 1954 at Louisiana Hayride, the old Grand Opry's main competitor, distinguished by its daring schedule. Nervous, he broadcast his debut set to 198 radio stations in 28 states, but the response was guarded. But a more assured and lively second set brought forth a fervent response. An important turning point in Presley's career came when he was signed up for a full year of Saturday night engagements at the Hayride after the show. After selling his old guitar for $8, he spent $175 or $2,500 in 2024 on a Martin instrument. And his trio began touring new cities, such as Houston, Texas, and Texarkana, Arkansas. When Presley made his television debut on Louisiana Hayride on KSLA-TV, he was disappointed to see that he was not selected for the CBS television network's Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts program. Despite obstacles, Presley became a local celebrity by the beginning of 1955, thanks to his frequent performances on Hayride, his busy touring schedule, and his well-received album releases. Presley's manager, Bob Neal, introduced him to Colonel Tom Parker, who is regarded as the best music industry promoter. In January, the two signed an official management contract. Elvis took a chance on his fate, and it worked. After managing Eddie Arnold and Hank Snow, among others, Parker signed Presley to tour with Snow in February. In August, Sun Records released 11 sides with the credits Elvis Presley, Scotty, and Bill, the most recent version featuring a drummer. A range of musical styles was represented on these records, with several tracks leaning more toward R&B or country, ultimately resulting in the development of the rockabilly genre. Presley struggled to get radio play despite this inventive mashup because his music was deemed too unique for both country and R&B radio stations. Still, he got more and more well-known, going by titles like the Memphis Flash, the Hillbilly Cat, and the King of Western Bop. Renewing his management contract with Neal in August of 1955, Presley named Parker his special advisor. The band kept up a strict touring schedule, frequently encountering jealous teenage lads in different towns. They opened for Bill Haley on a few dates in mid-October, and Haley saw Presley's natural rhythm and suggested he play fewer ballads. Early in November, during the Country Disc Jockey Convention, Presley was chosen as the most promising male performer of the year. Following several approaches from big companies, Parker and Sun Records proprietor Sam Phillips signed an innovative agreement with RCA Victor. Victor paid $40,000 to purchase Presley's Sun Records contract on November 21st, making him one of the first significant teenage stars. Presley's popularity soared as a result of RCA's intense promotion. Alas, a big star is born. Elvis's tango with Hollywood and its effect on his music. Talking about a man who was interested in all facets of entertainment and show business, you can look no further beyond Elvis Presley. Elvis knew he had the heart of a cine and nods won the body of a performer, so he took it to the theater set. Colonel Parker was the man who saw all that Elvis was capable of, so he pushed him to fulfill all of his potential. Did he push him a little too far and off the edge with the Hollywood stint? Parker had by now guided Presley into a rigorous filmmaking schedule that was largely devoted to formulaic, low-budget musical comedies. At first, Presley aimed for more significant parts, but he went back to the tried-and-true formula following the lackluster box office reaction of two more dramatic pictures, Flaming Star in 1960 and Wild in the Country in 1961. There were few breaks in this pattern among the 27 movies that Elvis Presley released in the 1960s. Even though his films were universally hated by reviewers, they were always profitable. Producer of 9 of Elvis Presley's movies, Hal Wallace, is credited with saying that a Presley picture was the only safe bet in Hollywood. In the 1960s, Presley's films had soundtrack albums for 15 of them and soundtrack EPs for 5 more. Presley's music was impacted by the quick speed of production, and release frequently starred in 3 movies in a year. Even prior to Presley's time in the Army, the formula for the soundtracks was known: a combination of 3 ballads, 1 upbeat song, 1 medium-tempo tune, and 1 blues boogie. The soundtrack songs gradually became worse as the decade went on. Songwriter Jerry Leiber claims that Presley was frequently unhappy with the material and would even turn away from the microphone in annoyance during recording sessions. Some cinema albums had songs by well-known writers like Doc Pomus and Mort Schumann, but most of the songs seem to have been written by people who didn't know much about Elvis Presley or rock and roll. Despite this, 3 of Presley's soundtrack albums peaked at #1 on the pop charts in the first half of the decade, and some of his most well-known songs, like Can't Help Falling in Love in 1961 and Return to Sender in 1962, were from his motion pictures. But from 1964 to 1968, there was just one top 10 hit, Crying in the Chapel in 1965, as commercial popularity started to decline. During this time, Presley only recorded 1 album of new music that is aside from film albums: the gospel album How Great Thou Art in 1967, which won him his first Grammy Award. According to music writer Greil Marcus, Presley made gospel music a major part of his performance, making him maybe the most important white gospel vocalist of his time. Elvis's military service and the passing of his mother. On March 24, 1958, Elvis Presley was inducted into the United States Army at Fort Chaffee in Arkansas, an event that drew significant media attention. As he disembarked from the bus, he was swarmed by hundreds of people and accompanied by photographers into the installation. Presley expressed his anticipation for military service, emphasizing his desire to be treated like any other soldier. But could he be treated as such? He was a star after all. Between March 28th and September 17th, 1958, Presley underwent basic and advanced training at Fort Hood, Texas, where he was temporarily assigned to Company A, 2D Medium Tank Battalion, 37th Armor. During a 2-week leave in early June, he recorded 5 songs in Nashville. However, tragedy struck in early August when his mother was diagnosed with hepatitis, leading to her rapid decline in health. Presley was granted emergency leave to visit her in Memphis, arriving on August 12th. Sadly, she passed away 2 days later at the age of 46, leaving Presley devastated. Their close relationship, marked by affectionate baby talk and pet names, deeply affected him. Elvis was quoted as saying, "Oh my, everything I own is gone," in an emotionally charged moment. On October 1st, 1958, Presley was assigned to the 1st Medium Tank Battalion, 32D Armor, 3D Armored Division, stationed at Ray Barracks in West Germany. There he served as an armor intelligence specialist. He was promoted to private first class on November 27, 1958, and later to specialist fourth class on June 1, 1959. During his military service, Presley was introduced to amphetamines, which he embraced for their perceived benefits in energy, strength, and weight loss. He also developed a lifelong interest in karate, studying under Jürgen Seidel and incorporating it into his live performances. Despite his fame, Presley strove to be regarded as an ordinary, capable soldier and was known for his generosity. He donated his army pay to charity, provided television sets for the base, and purchased extra uniforms for his fellow soldiers. In recognition of his service, Presley was promoted to sergeant on February 11, 1960. Achievements, honors, and awards. Among the best-selling musicians in history, Presley has sold about 500 million records globally. On the Billboard charts, Presley has several noteworthy records. He has the most songs that chart in the top 40 to 115 and top 100 to 152. Presley's number of top 10 and number 1 hit differs based on which singles were analyzed before Billboard's unified Hot 100 list was created. Some studies place Presley second for number 1 hits, 36, and ties Madonna for most top 10 hits, 38. With 17 number 1 hits, he is ranked slightly lower in other evaluations. Presley is the record holder for the most number 1 hits, 21, as well as the most top 10 hits, 76 in the UK. Presley has the most weeks at number 1 as an album artist, appearing a whopping 67 times, and the most albums charting in the Billboard 200, appearing 129 times. His CDs have been successful thus far. In 2015 and 2016, 2 that he recorded with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and sang on peaked at number 1 in the UK. According to the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, Presley ranks 3rd all-time in the U.S. with 146.5 million certified record sales, behind only the Beatles and Garth Brooks. In addition, he has multiple gold and platinum records for singles and albums. 2012 saw the naming of a spider species, Pareidonia presley, in his honor as a tribute to his cultural influence. Furthermore, Presley received the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously from President Donald Trump in 2018. A testament to his stance as the king of rock and roll controversy about Elvis Presley. Presley was a shining light in rock and roll, and his influence can neither be forgotten nor overstated. However, showbiz would be incomplete without fans and controversies. Different opinions have stemmed from fans and the media alike about his affection for underage girls, and his penchant for literally going for the kill when things hit the fan. In Priscilla Presley's book, Elvis and Me, she claimed that the musical icon forcefully made love to her, a part of the chain of events that culminated in their ultimate separation. Was Elvis really capable of such a gruesome act as rape? In Priscilla's words, "He grabbed me and forcefully made love to me," Priscilla writes. "It was uncomfortable and unlike any other time he'd ever made love to me before," and he explained, "This is how a real man makes love to his woman." Furthermore, his love story with Priscilla isn't particularly worth a How I Met Your Mother tale to be told to his child. He approached her at the super young age of 14. We know how that sounds, and so do you. According to Priscilla's book, Elvis and Me, Elvis was a passionate person. According to her account, the singer told her that they shouldn't have any sexual interactions until they were married. "I'm not saying we can't do other things," he said, referring to the act itself. "I wish to keep it intact." Priscilla's memoirs state that she stayed chaste until her wedding night, and that's when they finally had their consummation. Biographer Suzanne Finstad, though, casts doubt on this assertion. As is a common theme in the lives of music stars and celebrities, there are consistent rumors of infidelity and sexual escapades. However, in Elvis's case, his ex-wife Priscilla claims to know for a fact that he cheated on her, breaking their marriage vows with his co-stars while she stayed home taking care of their daughter. Makes one wonder what really happened to young shy Elvis, whose only dream was to be a musician. Did the spotlight get too bright for him? There has also been an urban legend about his rift with Mike Stone, the karate instructor whom Priscilla cheated with. During a performance on stage, 4 men accosted him, but he survived. He blamed it on Mike trying to eliminate him, so he's completely out of the picture. In his own words, he said, "There's too much pain in me. Stone must die." His bodyguard and friend Red West felt compelled to hire a contract killer and floated the idea to Elvis, but he refused, refusing to go that far for Priscilla. He didn't deem her worthy of such innovation, and also wasn't ready to lose his career. Elvis's death, the end of a tune. Presley was scheduled to leave Memphis on the evening of August 16, 1977, to begin a new tour that would take him to Portland, Maine. But that afternoon, his fiancée, Ginger Alden, discovered him unconscious on his Graceland mansion's toilet floor. At Baptist Memorial Hospital, he was declared dead at 3:30 p.m., despite attempts to resuscitate him. He was 42 years old. His last words to her were that he wouldn't doze off in the restroom. In a statement, President Jimmy Carter acknowledged Presley's important contribution to American popular culture. To see his open coffin, thousands of people gathered outside Graceland. Presley's cousin Billy Mann took the contentious photo of his body that appeared on the front of the National Enquirer's best-selling issue. Alden then worked out a bargain for her tale with the Enquirer. However, she had to accept less after going against her exclusivity contract. Notably, Presley left Alden out of his will. August 18th was Presley's funeral, held at Graceland. Tragically, 2 admirers lost their lives, and another was gravely injured in a car accident outside the estate. The procession route to Forest Hill Cemetery, where Presley was buried next to his mother, was attended by some 80,000 people. His song "Way Down" quickly shot to the top of the UK and national singles charts. On October 2nd, Presley and his mother were reburied in Graceland's meditation garden after a body heist attempt. Controversy on his mysterious demise. On Elvis's death certificate, it was listed that he died of hypertensive cardiovascular illness linked with atherosclerotic heart disease. In simpler terms, he died of a heart attack. One would think the speculations end after an autopsy, however. His admirers met this result with vivid skepticism, believing that he died from a deadly mix of prescriptions, as most people close to him know his heavy reliance on narcotics. The chief medical examiner, Jerry Francisco of Tennessee, claimed that the heart attack was the cause of death and nothing more. He claimed boldly that the intake of narcotics played no role in his untimely demise. Were people persuaded by this story, coming from an experienced medical practitioner? You guessed it. Definitely not. It was a heavy pill to swallow owing to his toxicology report. Most celebrities under the glare of the spotlight often have to fight their demons far away from it. Some do it naturally, while some need extra support. Illicit support one couldn't get from a candy store. His toxicology report made it seem as though he had a pharmacy residing inside of him. His life had entailed the ingesting of different deadly cocktails of prescriptions which he took in secret, or at least only known to some of his confidants. But death is an inevitable whistleblower. Opiates such as Demerol, Quaaludes, codeine, Dilaudid, and Percodan were found in him. The Presley family had asked for a private autopsy, which speaks volumes about the true cause of death. Were they trying to hide something so that they could cover up the real cause of death from the public? His death seemed to have just as much media traction as his life. Looks like the king just won't die off our lips. Did you enjoy the video? Show some love by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Scroll down to support us and stay tuned for more content like this on our channel.